I used to completely suck at reading books. An interesting book would sometimes catch my eye when I'm shopping and excitedly buy it because buying new books always gives me a very nice dopamine hit. But when the book arrived, the dopamine would have worn off and I'd chuck it aside into my graveyard of unread books, and then I'd go back to buying more crap on Amazon. This year though, I went from reading no books at all to reading more than 50 books a year. And it was all thanks to these 5 hacks here. Spoiler alert, 2 and 3 are my favorite, but it all started with the 2-minute rule, which is the easiest possible hack to implement. I got this from Atomic Habits by James Clear, and here's a quote from the book that's absolutely crucial. The 2-minute rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Any habit can be scaled down to a 2-minute version. Read before bed each night becomes just read 1 page. Here's the problem with most of us when starting a new habit. We get overly ambitious at the beginning and we start too big. However, sooner or later we burn out from our big goals and our habit dies within a few days or a few weeks. This is the absolute wrong way to build a habit. On the other hand, the key idea behind the 2-minute rule is to make your habits as easy as possible to start. So set your goal each day to read for just 2 minutes. This will get you through 1 or 2 pages per day. On the days that you feel up to the challenge, feel free to read as much as possible until you get tired. But on the days that you don't feel like doing anything, just read for 2 minutes. That is the bare minimum. The idea here is to master the habit of showing up. Because as James Clear says, a habit must first be established before it can be improved. After some time of building this habit, then you can confidently tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna read for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, even an hour per day. But it all starts with this simple 2-minute rule. Do not be overly ambitious at the beginning. The next hack I have for you is using the concept of loss aversion, and I'd even argue that this is the single most life-changing hack when it came to my reading habit. A couple years ago, I was watching this YouTube video by Campbell Walker, aka Streethless, who, by the way, has a great book called Your Head is a Houseboat. I just had to mention that since this is a book channel. And anyway, here's what he said that really stuck with me.
So one thing that I've never been able to properly nail is consistent YouTube uploads. But this year I've decided to try something different. I've got an editor, but there is one twist. I have pre-paid them. They get the money regardless of whether I film something or not.
This year, I somehow still remember this and I asked myself, what if I start a YouTube channel based on books and then I hire and prepay my editor as well? The idea behind this is called loss aversion, a behavioral phenomenon where humans are very loss averse and would do whatever they can to avoid losses. So by prepaying my editor $10,000 over 1 year for roughly 50 videos, that's about $200 per video. I'm putting myself at a massive loss right at the beginning. Now, with each book that I read, summarize, and turn into a video with the help of my editor, that is $200 well spent. But if 1 week I decide to be lazy, I decide not to read, and my editor doesn't have a video to edit, that's a massive $200 loss for me. And I must say that this has been one heck of a motivation. So far, my editor has been busy every single week. Now, obviously, it may not be the most feasible for you to start your own YouTube channel on books and then prepay an editor hundreds of dollars per video. So here's what I would recommend instead. Let's say you have a goal to read 50 books over the next 1 year. So that's about 1 book per week. Now, call your friend up and Venmo them $1,000. Over the next 50 weeks, tell your friend to Venmo you back $20 per week or per book that you read. If you don't read a book, you don't get your money back. But if you do read a book, you get $20 back. Here's the crucial bit of the video that you absolutely cannot miss. Not only does this draw on the phenomenon of loss aversion, it also draws on an incredible concept from Atomic Habits, which is using an immediate reward to increase the rate of a behavior, which makes this tip doubly effective. Just to give you some context, for thousands of years, our ancestors were focused on immediate concerns like finding their next meal, seeking shelter, and staying alert enough to escape any nearby saber-toothed tigers. And after so many generations in an immediate reward environment, our human brains evolved to prefer quick payoffs to long-term payoffs. However, nowadays we live in what is known as a delayed return environment. Why would someone smoke if they know it increases the risk of lung cancer? Why would someone overeat when they know it increases their risk of obesity? Why would someone have unsafe sex if they know it can result in sexually transmitted disease? Once you understand how the brain prioritizes rewards, the answers become clear. The consequences of bad habits are delayed while the rewards are immediate. Smoking might kill you in 10 years, yeah, but it reduces stress and eases your nicotine cravings now. Overeating is harmful in the long run, but appetizing in the moment. Sex, safe or not, provides pleasure right away. Disease and infection won't show up for days or weeks, sometimes even for years. It's the same thing with reading. You read a book and you try to apply new habits, but the changes don't show up overnight. So it's easier to just toss your book aside and scroll social media or watch Netflix, where you get an immediate boost of dopamine. The solution that James proposes, when trying to pursue a habit with a delayed return, attach some sort of immediate gratification. So, running with the same example that we talked about in the previous hack, seeing $20 arrive in your bank account every single time you finish a book is one form of immediate reward that you can use. For myself, I don't get $20 in my bank account, but my immediate reward is getting to upload a video almost every single week. And boom, that's like instant dopamine for me. And I now have a small but growing collection of videos that I'm really proud of, and I sometimes like to look back on them. That's how you do it. Find creative ways to come up with an immediate reward when you're trying to pick up a good habit. The next hack is something I picked up from Alec Hormozy, who also wrote books such as $100 Million Leads and $100 Million Offers. At the beginning of his books, he would always give this pro tip. If you listen to the audiobook while listening to the book at the same time, you will increase your reading speed and retain more information. The contents are being stored in more places in your brain. This is how I read most things worth reading. I did a little bit of research into this and I found that this was called immersion reading. This is your brain. When you're reading written words like those from a book, the part of your brain that is activated is called the left fusiform gyrus, if I'm not wrong. On the other hand, for listening comprehension, the superior temporal gyrus is activated because it contains the auditory cortex. In simple terms, reading a physical book and listening to it in audiobook form simultaneously engages multiple parts of your brain at the same time. Research has shown that this helps you understand the material that you read faster and retain this information for longer periods of time. Whenever I used to just read physical books, my mind would start feeling tired after 30 minutes or so. But when I combined both reading and listening at the same time, and especially when I increased the speed of my audiobooks to 1.75 to 2 times the speed, I was able to stay focused for longer periods of time, more than an hour or so each time, I think because my brain was just more activated. That is the power of immersive reading, and I would highly recommend it. If none of these 4 hacks have spoken to you, then let me guess, maybe you just hate reading. In this case, this next hack is perfect for you. And I picked it up from a post by entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant. You can check out this book if you want to read more about him. But anyway, he says, read what you love until you love to read. The idea is very simple but very powerful. For me, I read Archie comics for years in my childhood. Then I graduated to fiction like Harry Potter and Alex Rider when I was in my teens. And finally, when I was in my early 20s, that's where I discovered my love for self-improvement books. I don't think I've ever had to force myself to read anything because I just always gravitated to what I love to read. That's probably the single best way for picking up a reading habit without it feeling like an absolute chore. So what books are you immediately drawn to? What interests you? Or what problems do you have in your life that the book could possibly shed light on? If you've no idea where to start, I took all of the best books that were released in 2024 and I summarized them into a single video on the screen here. Just pick one from there and run with it.